Howdy homies, this is my brand new Esquif Prospecteur 15. I've recently outfitted this canoe, which was a first for me. So in this video, I'm going to go over why I got the canoe and how and why I outfitted it. But before we get into that, I'd like to mention that after 5.5 years, the channel has finally accepted its first sponsor, the Contacute Canoe Company. So this video, this canoe, brought to you by the Contacute Canoe Company. They're authorized Esquif, Winona, and North Star dealers. Austin and Jade are extremely knowledgeable, friendly, helpful people. They have all kinds of nice canoes and kayaks in stock. If they don't have it, they can order it. That's how I got my North Star Trillium Stealth. It was a custom order through Contacute Canoe Company. And they're just a great company to work with, which is why I'm really excited to announce the sponsorship. Check them out. Canoe, let's get into it. Now, the reason I got this canoe, as some of you may know, is about 1.5 months ago, I went on a trip with my buddy Joe and Josh. We were going down the Connecticut River, and my buddy Joe ended up wrapping his canoe. Beautiful Hemlock SRT Kevlar canoe. I was using my North Star Phoenix on that trip, and I realized very quickly after that accident happened that doing the things that I intended to do with the Phoenix and my skill set combined, I knew that it was quite probable that I was going to destroy my Phoenix. So given that situation, I immediately realized I needed a different canoe for the job. Cue the Esquif Prospecteur 15, a boat that's much more suited for what I plan on doing with it. Wilderness travel, a combination of rivers and lakes, and that Prospecteur 15 is a good canoe for that. It's much higher volume than the Phoenix. It's made out of T-Formic, so it's much more forgiving than the Phoenix, and I just feel like, given my skill set, it's a much more practical canoe. So that's why I got the canoe. Now let's move on to outfitting and what I did. The first thing I did was start messing around with these flotation bags in the bow and stern, trying to figure out an approximate location for the anchor point. Once I had that roughly figured out, I started pulling 4-inch measurements off of the deck plates until I was in the ballpark of where I wanted the anchors to be. I used a straight edge across the final measurements and used a framing square to locate the outside edge of the anchor point. Now I realize that these are not flat square surfaces. These are just approximations, and they're close enough for me. So take it easy on me. From here I traced out the anchor point locations and taped them off. Then I repeat the process on the other side, and while I'm at it, I located and marked out the center line of the canoe. With the center line and anchor points located, I switched my focus to the tie-outs on the bow and stern. From the factory, the tie-outs are secured with 2 stopper knots, one on each end. I have heard from multiple people that in a recovery situation, when you're pulling on these canoes, trying to free up a pinned canoe, the pressures can be enormous. And those stopper knots can create unequalized, isolated pressure on either side of the hull, causing a failure. The hull can just blow apart. The way to help mitigate that is one continuous loop. It helps equalize the pressure, spreading more of the pressure and forces throughout the hull, making it much less likely to break. So I took the factory rope out, rounded over all the sharp edges of the canoe with my knife, and replaced the rope with 2 webbing secured with a water knot. This took a bit of doing and tinkering in a really awkward position, but it's doable. I found it easiest to start the knot on one end of the webbing, feed the open end of the webbing through the inside of the canoe, go out and around the canoe and back through the canoe on the other side. Retrace the knot, take up the slack, secure the knot, and then pull the loop out. Done. It was a pain in the ass. It is worth mentioning that a water knot can work itself loose over time, so leave good long tails that you can grab a hold of and tighten up. And it's also worth noting that I used 2 webbing because I had a lot of it kicking around from my rock climbing days. It's not webbing that I would necessarily trust with my life in a rock climbing situation anymore, but I do believe it to be strong enough and integral enough to handle the forces that may be put on the canoe trying to unpin it. There's probably much better rope for the job. I don't know, I just used what I had, but if you do know, please let me know in the comments, because this is a learning experience for me, and knowledge is power. The more you know, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you if you know. Next up is the yoke. Because I'm essentially paddling this canoe backwards, I'm gonna switch it around. This way I don't need to turn the canoe around every time I portage it. My face won't be right in front of the seat. And if for some reason this canoe ever comes to a sudden stop, those pointy surfaces and my junk won't be forcefully joined. The seats, Esquif puts some tilt on their seats from the factory, but because I'm paddling the canoe backwards, the tilt is in the wrong direction. To demonstrate the tilt, I ran a level from the seat to the yoke and made a line to establish elevation. Turned the seat around, ran the level again, and the results will definitely improve my comfort. And the other seat, I'm just going to leave the way it is, because if I'm ever in a situation where I'm with other people and we lose a canoe, I have still effectively a tandem, and we can use it that way. So I'm just going to leave it, not going to mess with it at all. With that done, it's time to move on to the flotation bag cages. For this, I used the North Star eyelet kit. It comes with 32 eyelets and rivets. I quickly reestablished my measurements just to be thorough, and using a 13/64 drill bit, I set about to drilling out and riveting the eyelets in place. Now, it's pretty nerve-wracking to start drilling holes in a canoe, but just think it out, take your time, think it out some more, measure, remeasure, think it out a little bit more, and then go about it. Bit by bit, it gets easier to do. Almost feels normal after a few holes. At this point, I switched my focus back to the anchor points. A light sanding with 100 grit sandpaper. I clean that up with acetone, and then I wipe the back of the anchor points down with acetone as well. And to adhere them to the hull, I'm using H66. Now, it's very important to use the right adhesive for the right job. Vinyls, composites, they use different stuff. So make sure to get the right stuff and to read the directions. Be very thorough. Like my buddy Tim said, read the directions 5 times. I give the hull a thin coat, I give the anchors a thin coat, and then I let them sit for a few minutes to off gas, then carefully install them. I work the anchors over with a roll of tape and my fingers to push out any air that might be in there and to ensure good contact. Then I peel the tape off before the adhesive cures, and repeat. For my painters, I drilled 4 holes through the deck plates and then ran shot cord through them, and then set about to lacing up the cages. And lacing the cages is pretty easy. It's like lacing your shoes. And then I rigged up the end of the cages with a knot that I don't even really know the name of. It's like some sort of modified prusik. This allows me to easily open and close the ends of the cages to install the flotation bags. I'm also using webbing to run down the center of the bags that is secured with a buckle on one end so that they can easily be removed under pressure or tension. I initially had the buckle secured to the anchor with webbing and a water knot, but have since added a carabiner to allow for easy removal. With that, I installed some cheap knee pads that have adhesive on the backing because I've never really done this before and I'm intimidated to put knee pads in the wrong location permanently. So I figured that the temporary solution would help me figure out exactly where I want those pads. Keep in mind, I've never done this before, so the temporary solution seemed like a really good idea at the time. I attached bungees to the seats and the yoke to hold my paddles, keep them secure when I'm portaging and paddling along so I don't lose them. And that's pretty much it. The boat is outfitted and ready for its first trip, which she's already been on. The trip went well, everything seemed to work great, and I feel like I learned a lot on that trip. It was a ton of fun, had a blast. But when I got home from the trip and got out of my truck, looked in the back of my truck, one of the knee pads had let go and was actually in the truck. It didn't get lost, which was a small miracle. Anyway, I didn't get to taking the canoe off the truck until the next day, and when I got to doing that, the other knee pad had let go, was sitting there in the truck. The thing is that the adhesive had actually let go of the pad, so the adhesives were still on the canoe, which I had to take off. I ended up scraping them off with a scraper and trying to use some acetone to get the sticky stuff off, and that didn't really work out that well, so I used Goo Gone, and boom, came off so easy. It was amazing. Canoe surface is good as new, and now I'm ready to get some pads and commit and permanently adhere them into place where they're going to be pretty much forever. So that's that. That's my canoe outfitting journey. First time ever. I'm looking forward to doing it again because I can see where outfitting these canoes is pretty therapeutic, addicting, if you will. I want to bag out my North Star Phoenix. And at this point, I don't have any other plans to do anything of the sort, but you never know. Time goes on, people start thinking crazy things, and projects abound. And I believe that's it, guys. Canoe outfitting is done. Who knows what I'll do from here? I'll keep you guys posted. Already been on my first trip with her in the river, which was tons of fun. That'll be my next video. Keep your eye out for that. And until the meantime, I appreciate your support. Thank you very much for watching. Catch you on the next one.